It started with silence. Not the kind you hear in a studio between takes or the hush before the stage lights come on. No, this was the kind of silence that wraps around you like fog. Quiet, but heavy. Blake Shelton, the man with the Oklahoma charm and the easy grin, found himself caught in a moment where words failed and emotions took over. For years, Blake had been the face of laughter, banter, and rivalry on The Voice. From teasing Adam Levine to mentoring rising stars with his no-nonsense wisdom, he became more than just a coach. He became a symbol, a voice of country music, a backbone to the show, a reason millions tuned in, not just for the talent, but for him. But today, something changed. Behind the cameras, behind the scenes, Blake had been facing something no fan could have guessed. When he smiled for the camera, he masked a grief that was still fresh. When he clapped for a contestant, he was holding back tears from a loss that shook his world. The news broke quietly. No press conference. No flashy headline. Just a quiet confirmation from someone close. A family tragedy. A deeply personal loss that pulled the rug out from under him. Blake had lost someone dear. Someone who had shaped his journey before the world knew his name. A family member who had once sat on the porch with him as he strummed his guitar, who believed in his voice before anyone else did. Someone who said, "You got something special," when he was just a boy chasing songs in the wind. It wasn't just a death. It was a heartbreak that reopened old wounds. The kind of grief that doesn't just make you cry. It makes you question everything. He flew back home. No entourage, no fanfare. Just him and the weight of it all. The Oklahoma sky seemed heavier that day. He walked through familiar fields, the ones he grew up in, with boots now worn and a heart cracked wide open. Inside the house, there were photos. Old ones, faded. He lingered on them. A boy with a guitar, a mother who cheered the loudest, a father who always told him to sing it like you mean it. That's who he lost. His father. The man who had built him. Grounded him. The man who gave him his first guitar, who stayed up late listening to songs no one else cared to hear. Gone. Blake Shelton's father, Richard Shelton, had been the quiet engine behind his son's success. A man who worked with his hands, loved his family fiercely, and never asked for the spotlight. And now he was gone. And even though Richard had been battling illness for some time, no amount of preparation softens the blow of that final goodbye. Blake was scheduled to appear on The Voice that week. Everyone wondered, would he still come? Could he? He did. He showed up. But something was different. That first moment he walked out on set, the crowd cheered like always. But those closest to him noticed his eyes. Red, puffy, not from exhaustion, but from mourning. Carson Daly kept the energy going. But there was a pause, a heartbeat of silence. As Blake looked out at the crowd, then down at the floor, then back up. He didn't speak of it. He didn't need to. The performance that night wasn't about winning. It was about honoring a legacy, a life, a love. Every word he sang had weight. Every note carried sorrow. And after the show, when the cameras stopped rolling, Blake sat quietly in his chair. When Stefani, his wife and fellow artist, walked over, touched his hand. No words, just presence. Sometimes silence says the most. In interviews that followed, Blake briefly acknowledged the pain. "I lost my hero," he said, voice cracking. "He was the reason I picked up a guitar. He's the reason I never gave up." He didn't say much, but when he did, it mattered. Fans poured in messages of support. Social media lit up with tributes, not just for Blake, but for his father. Videos surfaced of old interviews, moments where Blake spoke about his dad, how he taught him humility, the meaning of hard work, and the heart of country music. Fellow artists reached out. Luke Bryan, Reba, Miranda Lambert, his ex-wife, even shared a quiet tribute, a photo of Richard at one of Blake's early shows. He was proud, always. In moments like this, celebrity doesn't shield you. It strips you. Fame doesn't soften grief. It magnifies it. And Blake, the man known for his quick wit and good humor, let the world see a side he rarely shares. The son who's grieving. And just when fans thought that was the extent of the heartbreak, another layer unfolded. During this time of mourning, Blake also had to make another painful decision, stepping away from upcoming commitments, including several tour dates and appearances. The man who never stopped working realized he needed to stop, to heal, to be with family, to feel. And that's what made it all so human. Because we're not watching a celebrity go through a PR-managed loss. We're watching a son trying to breathe through grief, a husband holding his wife a little tighter, a man remembering who he was before the spotlight, and rediscovering what really matters. He returned to his hometown for a few days, quietly attending a private service. No photographers, no media, just family, just memory, just love. Those who were there said the service was simple, humble. Blake played a song, one he never released, one he wrote for his dad years ago, but never had the heart to record. He played it alone, eyes closed, voice trembling. And there wasn't a dry eye in the room. This wasn't just a goodbye. This was a final thank you. To the man who never asked for applause but deserved every standing ovation. The road ahead will not be easy. Blake knows that. But he also knows he's not alone. His fans, millions of them, stand with him. With every message, every tribute, every quiet prayer. And through it all, he's finding strength. Strength in memory. Strength in music. Strength in the very foundation his father built. Not just of a career, but of character. Because the truth is, Richard Shelton didn't just raise a country star. He raised a good man. And even though he's gone, that legacy lives on. In every note Blake sings, in every word he says, and in every quiet moment. When he looks to the sky and smiles, knowing somewhere up there, his dad is still listening. The next few days were quieter for Blake. No press, no stage lights, no red chairs spinning. Just open skies, the rustle of wind through Oklahoma fields, and the occasional strum of an old guitar. But something had shifted. Deep down, the grief carved out space for reflection. Not just about loss, but about life. He started writing again. Not for a new album, not for a tour, just for himself. Scribbled verses in the margins of old notebooks. Lyrics that bled with emotion. Some lines ended in anger, others in hope. But every word was honest. Blake had always said that country music is about truth, telling the hard stories with heart. And now, he was living that truth in real time. His return to Los Angeles weeks later was met with quiet respect. No welcome parade. No glitzy interviews. Just handshakes, hugs, and unspoken understanding. Everyone at The Voice had been waiting, unsure how he would be. Would he joke again? Would he still call Kelly Clarkson out with that signature smirk? Would he even be himself? He was, but with a softness, a slower pace. His humor still landed, but there was more pause between the punchlines. His coaching became even more personal. He began asking his contestants not just how they sang, but why. Why this song? Who are you saying it for? What story are you telling? Some contestants cried. One, a young man with trembling hands, said, "For my dad. He passed last year." Blake nodded, then stood, walked over, and hugged him. No cameras zoomed in. No dramatic music played. Just a moment between two people who understood loss. This wasn't television anymore. It was life. And slowly, through these small but powerful acts, Blake began to heal. Fans noticed. They flooded comment sections with stories of their own grief, of losing a parent, of clinging to music to get through. One woman wrote, "I lost my dad too, Blake. I know that hole in the heart. Thank you for being open. You made me feel seen." In this new season of his life, Blake wasn't just an entertainer anymore. He became a vessel for something deeper. For resilience, for remembering, for honoring the people who built us, and loving them even after they're gone. His performances took on new meaning. When he sang, "God Gave Me You," it felt heavier. Not just a love song anymore, but a thank you to the people who held him up when he couldn't stand on his own. When he revisited Austin, fans swore they heard a new emotion in his voice. Nostalgia with an ache. He wasn't just performing, he was pouring out memories. And then came the surprise. One night after a show, he sat on a stool with just a mic and a guitar. The venue was dim. Fans had expected an encore, maybe a chart topper. Instead, Blake cleared his throat and said, "I wrote something new. Not for radio. Not for anyone, really. Just for me. And him. Then he began to sing. It was raw, stripped down, just a voice and 6 strings. A song about front porch nights, about driving old trucks down dusty roads, about quiet advice and loud laughter. About a man who never wanted the spotlight but was always the sun in his son's sky. No one moved. When he finished, he looked up and whispered, "Thanks, Dad." The crowd stood in silence, then erupted. People weren't just clapping. They were crying. Because in that moment, Blake gave something more powerful than a show. He gave them truth. And truth, when shared from the heart, has a way of connecting souls.